What is up, Niko Nation, and all the followers of the Draft Guys podcast with Peyton and Niko? We welcome you back to Division Draftables, episode 4, the NFC West edition. Of course, this is season 2 of Division Draftables. This is our NFL news series where we highlight the surrounding news of your favorite team and all 32 NFL teams as we kind of transition out of the draft cycle to training camp and ultimately preseason football. We're going to be looking at the NFC West division and kind of every single pick that all 4 of those teams made. I am your host, Niko Chambers. Niko the Draft Guy, you can call me, alongside my co-host, Pete Dunn.
I'm so stoked for this one. I am so excited. Getting into the Seahawks, getting into the Rams. You have told me that we're going to disagree on a lot of these, so I'm excited for that. I have not been this excited for a division draftable yet this season, so I cannot wait to get into this.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll go right off the bat. Pete Dunn has not seen my grade, and we have a drastic
Oh boy.
disagreement. The other ones are kind of a little bit easier. However, I will reveal to you our grades on the Los Angeles Rams. And oh boy, man, P
Wow.
Dunn is coming in a 5-man draft with an A minus when it's clearly a C. So, P Dunn, you have to give me your rationale.
Clearly a C, but they got my tight end one and my number 20 overall player in the second in pick 61, late second round, right? Also got Tim Keene in the seventh round. Really good picks. I think CJ Daniels can play in that receiver room immediately. You also got your quarterback of the future. There is no better situation for a quarterback. And we see Ty Simpson the same way. We both I have him at 25, you have him at 27, QB2, right? There is literally in the entire time I've ever watched the NFL, there has never been a situation better for a quarterback to walk in and sit than behind Matthew Stafford in a McVay offense. Not only did you get that, you got a really talented quarterback who has only played one full season of college football. His upside is tremendous. Ty Simpson's upside is really big. And you got him with an aging Matthew Stafford at the value you did with McVay. He's going to be able to sit for a year, maybe two, take over the reins. There is no position more valuable in football, in sports, than a quarterback. It is the single most valuable position. And the number one thing you have to do as a franchise is make sure your quarterback position is as good as you can make it. And this investment at 13, some people say it was too high. There is no investment too high for a quarterback. We see them go at 1 all the time when they shouldn't. It happened this year with Mendoza going at 1. He was not the number 1 overall player in the class. Taking Simpson at 13, and when he's 25 and 27 on our boards, when you get him to sit behind Stafford and get him to sit behind McVay, is a masterclass. It's going to work out really well. The only reason you gave it a C is because you're a damn Seahawks fan and you don't want to watch Ty Simpson whoop your team over the next 15 years.
Listen, man, I'll tell you, man, I will gladly watch Ty Simpson sit the bench for the next 5 years because Stafford's going to be in the league longer
Oh
than
God.
you think. He's going to do exactly what Rodgers did. You did exactly what the Packers did drafting Jordan Love. He's going to have to sit for
Look
literally
how
three
that
to
worked
four
out.
years.
That worked out
Three,
so good.
but you have an opportunity to win now. The Packers never really had an opportunity to win now. This Rams team, literally, I have it written right here, 1 or 2 moves away from being a Goliath, like the Los Angeles Dodgers in baseball. That's what they could be. They could have built a super team. And now you're going to be the little brother to the Seattle Seahawks again because you're not getting over the hump with Ty Simpson as your first round pick. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. I'll look down the board, man. You took Ty Simpson 13th. Great pick, if you will. Awane right after at 14. Way better fit, man. I'll tell you something, man. This is irresponsible. You have both your guards, your center, and your right tackle who are about to become free agents after 2026. What are they going to do on their offensive line to go get Keegan Tross, the guy who's not ranked on our 150 big board? That's not going to cut it, man. I'm sorry. You had Bain at 15. He could have been a better fit for them. Of course, you had Banks and Woods, who could have filled that nose tackle spot where Poona Ford's playing right now. Much better at 18 and 29 overall. And a guy that I didn't like, but man, did I like the fit, Mekhi Lemon over here at number 20 overall. You got to remember that this wide receiver room, while it looks so polished, Adams missed time last year and all hell broke loose. They couldn't play football. And of course, they did have Puka during that time, but who knows what's going to happen with Puka? Puka's a head case off the field. He's about to get a big contract that he hasn't signed yet. It's going to be higher than JSN's. He's going to be the most paid player in the NFL, which means that with that, it's going to come growing pains. And you're not even going to have Devontae Adams next year. So who's your wide receiver? CJ Daniels cannot be the only guy in this room with a Puka who's about to get this large contract. You can't re-sign their guys. I understand the rationale between Ty Simpson, but I just don't think he's that good of a prospect. He is rated number 27 on my board. However, in a different draft class, he could be in the 50s. That's the thing. This draft class wasn't that great. So I'm not that high on it. I do give it a C. I do think it's crazy, Pete, on you're giving an A minus when you only have 3 picks in your top 150 in a 5-man draft. You got 2 guys not ranked on this list. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, but you got your quarterback of the future. That Super Bowl window could have just been extended by 10 to 15 years if if they nailed this pick in the tosses the way the Packers have with Aaron Rodgers. If they wouldn't have made that pick, they would have had to been in the sweepstakes to do what the Raiders are doing and do what the Titans had to do and Browns are going to do and hope for a number one pick. They just took the luxury pick that they had, just like the Packers did, just like the Chiefs did when they took Mahomes and all of these Drake May, they're going to let him sit behind the quarterback that is in there right now, take over the reins when it's their turn, and you're going to have a really good quarterback on your hands and be able to compete for a long time.
Those guys had top 10 upside and being quarterbacks in the league. Ty Simpson, I'm sorry, man. He's not even going to crack the 15 in his career. He will never be a top 15 quarterback.
Jordan Love was not a high upside player coming out of college.
I think it's
He
more
was a
than Ty
good.
Simpson, man.
I don't know, man. I don't agree. Tyson has played 1 year of football. It's
That's the
only
issue.
upside. It's only upside.
1 year football and you're taking him at 13.
Yes,
I don't know,
because it was a
man.
good year.
It's
Bro.
we're gonna always disagree on this. We're gonna have to move on for the sake of time. We're gonna look really at their depth chart, what they did. They didn't do much, but they did good by really revamping that cornerback room, kind of getting those other players at different positions. Not much to talk about here, Pete, on, but what do you have to say about that updated corner room?
Yeah, it was by far the biggest need on their team. It was the biggest thing holding this team back, and they went and not only did they solve the problem, they made it a really good cornerback room. You got a top 10, 12 corner in the league, probably higher than that, and Trent McDuffie for a pretty good value. I think with where this team is at, going back to your win now, they were willing to give up that first round pick to compete this year, and they solved a really good need. This roster doesn't need anything. It doesn't need anything. This roster is really, really good, and they went out and they solved the biggest hole.
Think another thing that you're going to have to decipher here for a bunch of different reasons. We know that this team really likes to run that big personnel, that 3 tight end sets. You now have 4 capable tight ends. Who do you think, or really, I'll ask you, how do you think your boy Max Clare is going to stack up against the guys already in the room?
I think he's very clearly the highest upside inline tight end of this group. And so I love what he does. He was one of my favorite players throughout the entire process. I love the way he ran routes, and I love the way he blocks. Taryn Ferguson, you never expect him to play inline. He's always going to be more of that gadget tight end. And so they're going to play different positions. I think they will be the tight end one and tight end two by the end of the year. I know they just gave Higbee that extension. No one's really going to be interested in trading for him, but if there was someone, I would expect him to be gone.
I think at this point, honestly, with them not really addressing that wide receiver room, don't be shocked if Max Clare kind of slides his way to that slot position. I think that he could play there right away. I think he's a better slot receiver than he is an inline tight end. I think some of the guys that they have on the list already, and Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee, even Terrence Ferguson, are better inline tight ends than Max Clare is right now. We'll move in to Pete Dunn superlatives. So, Pete Dunn, you got to tell me why this is an A minus draft.
Yeah, well, favorite pick was going to be Max Claridge because he's one of my favorite players in the draft. Best value, I loved where they got him. Getting him in the second round, I thought was a steal. And year one impact again. No one else in this list I think is going to be able to contribute at a high level immediately. I think he's going to be able to take over that tight end room pretty soon. Sleeper, CJ Daniels, I think can contribute in that receiver room just because it's so open behind those top 2 guys. Two Atwell is no longer on the roster. Like you said, Devontae Adams up and down, injury concerns for sure. Puka, even if he's there, it's only one guy, and somebody has to step up behind him. Draft Diamond, I'm telling you, 10 years from now, we can come back to it. You and me we can be 40 years old with 3 kids each and hanging out at the beach one day, and we're gonna be watching TV and I'll be like, hey, remember when I told you Ty Simpson was gonna be good? And you're gonna be like, yes, I was wrong. That's what you're gonna have to say to me one day.
Hopefully, we won't be on a beach. Hopefully, we will be in an NFL front office, not making picks like that, making picks that are
Oh
different
God.
from that,
Oh
because that is
God.
just not the pick. I'll look at what I have on this list. I do have Ty Simpson being a draft diamond, but for the other reasons in the criteria, I think he will develop into a star over time on a different NFL organization. I don't think that he is going to work out with the Rams. I just
Oh
don't
my
see it,
God.
man. I don't see it. Favorite pick is going to still be Max Clare. I think he does good things. I think that obviously where he was on the board, he was a really underrated tight end number two. For both of us, he's going to be a fantastic player. Tim Keenan, I mean, 140th overall in my prospect rankings, and he goes 232nd in round seven. That's going to get you into the best value conversation, especially at a nose tackle position where he can kind of play immediately, kind of fight Poona Ford for that position and kind of maybe get some playing time in year one. Top sleeger, Keegan Tross. I just think that, like I said, man, when you're getting rid of a right tackle, a center, and both guards to free agency after 2026, someone has to step it up. He's the only guy that they drafted. He kind of has to do that. And then year one impact, I do think CJ Daniels, because of how open that wide receiver room is, because we don't know if Puka's going to be holding out or what's going to happen with Devontae Adams, I do have him as an impact. So, Pete, is this team based on the draft, the A- draft grade that you give them, are they the favorites for the Super Bowl?
No, I do think the Seahawks are my favorites for the Super Bowl. But they are second. I think it's the same as last year. I think these are the two best teams in football. We'll get into the Seahawks soon, but they're absolutely in contention. They solved their biggest hole, which was that cornerback room, and I think they're ready to compete again.
I feel the same way. They had a great opportunity to be first, and they failed miserably. We'll move in to a team, the Cardinals, who had a pretty underrated draft. Pete on actually giving it a B plus. I gave it a B. You see the screen. They went with the bold move to get Jeremiah Love at that third overall pick. Pete on, how do you feel about this Cardinals draft?
Yeah, again, I think it's interesting because I'm not exactly, we had a conversation with the Saints about I really like the players they took. Not exactly sure how I feel about the positions. I actually like the positions they took. Like I like that they went offensive line at 34. I like that they went quarterback in that third round. I like Beck. I think he fits that scheme really well. Caleb Proctor was a guy that I thought needed to go to a 3-4 system. He's going to a 3-4 system, and I think he's going to be really good in that. But Jeremiah Love is a fantastic football player. I just don't agree with the philosophy of taking him right now with where this team is. It's arguably, I would say, the second worst, third worst roster, probably the second worst roster in the NFL right now behind the Dolphins. And you don't draft a running back when you're in that area. We had that conversation with the Raiders. I'm not sure why, you talked about us being, general managers of NFL teams one day. I will not be taking a running back when my team is in a roster position like this. When you're the Rams or you're in a position where you can take, or you're the Seahawks, you just won a Super Bowl, your roster's great, take a first round running back, right? Jeremiah Love, especially at three. I understand it's not a great draft. I probably want to go offensive line there. Again, I just don't love the philosophy behind it.
I think it's fantastic. I think he's a generational player. I just think that what could you have done differently? I mean, Maui Noah,
Yeah.
do you think he could have been a plug and play? Do you think he could have been a generational prospect? I don't under this Cardinals system. I do think Jeremiah Love is going to get a second contract with this team. I think he's a phenomenal football player. Talk about Carson Beck really quickly because we're going to move into the depth chart and we're going to see that he has a real opportunity to play. We think Jacoby Brissett, what is he holding out now for a bigger contract? When it's like, whoa, buddy, like you have an opportunity to start and who knows, he may throw that away before his skills even on the field. But I do think that Carson Beck is going to see time this year. How do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree. Why not? Like, what's your upside with Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew? Either of those guys are not going to take you to a Super Bowl. You have an opportunity, even if they do play really well. Your ceiling is limited because from a 5 to 10 year outlook, you have an opportunity with a guy that I don't think he can be, but just because of his age, has the opportunity to be a franchise quarterback and develop into one. And we've seen that happen before. Take the swing, let him fail. You know what I mean? And worst case scenario, he sucks and you're picking, top five next year and have an opportunity to take another quarterback.
All day long. They kind of revamped their offensive line, if you will. Chase Pasantis sliding in at that right guard position on this kind of depth chart, if you will. They got Elijah Wilkerson. They got Isaac Seumalo. How do you feel about that kind of breakdown?
They needed to. This was an offensive line that's underperformed. I think you're happy with Paris Johnson and the way he's kind of developed. It's always hard with these tackles. It's so up and down the first few years until they really get their feet underneath of them. He's going to get an extension soon. He's going to be here for a long time. Other than that, though, they needed to make investments, and that's what we talked about earlier. I like the Basantis pick. I think they'll need to continue to do that over the next few years, but they're on the right track with that offensive line.
If you had to pick kind of your favorite pickup for this Cardinals team on the defensive side of the ball, is there a guy that you would point to?
Yeah, I would say Caleb Proctor. I think he has the opportunity to play, any of those three front positions. I think he can slide it in nose tackle on third down reps for this team. I really do like him at defensive end, though. And I think that, we had talked about in our rankings that I think that's actually where he's the most comfortable rather than a three tech position. And so I like this fit. I like the opportunity for him to try and play immediately. Darius Robinson has not worked out over these first 2 years of his contract. I think I may be mistaking this. I think he had a 2.6% pass rush win rate last season. Out of a first round, that's just disgusting and terrible. Cannot happen. And I hope Caleb Proctor, he might take that spot from him sooner than later.
This is a very similar conversation to the Saints running back room, if you will, except just with four much drastically better
Yeah.
running backs. You got Jeremiah Love, Tyler Algier, James Conner, Trey Benson, and even Bam Knight, if you will. What we'll go fantasy first, but also like, what do you think? How do you think this is going to turn out in terms of touches?
It's a shame for me because I actually think Trey Benson had really good upside. I liked him a lot. He was my running back one in that draft class. Thought he should have gone sooner than third round. I thought I had him as a top 50 player on my board that year. I don't think a lot of people know this. He led the league and missed tackles forced rate. So his percentage of success rate on making a move and making defenders miss was the highest in the NFL. So there's upside there. And so I think he fits too much of what Jeremiah Love does is the problem. He's a sneaky trade contender for a team like just off like the Bears. I would love for the Bears to go get him. If Swift starts to show his age this year, pair him with Monunga, I think would be really interesting. The Niners, if McCaffrey gets hurt, I think he could be interesting there. Like there's some teams that could use him. It's a shame that he's not going to get the opportunity to be an RB1. James Conner's getting older, and Tyler Algier is just got a brand new contract with this team. Expect Algier and Love to be about 90 to 95% of the touches on this team. I very much expect it'll be a two-man rotation. It's just not good team building with extending Algier, or I mean, signing Algier for the money you did, and then paying Jeremiah Love top three pick money.
It's just unreal. I mean, you have to have kind of a thought process when you're going through the draft cycle, the draft process, the combine, and you're going to give that big money to Algier, which is pretty big for a running back too. But James Conner, I mean, I guess he's out of the picture. It's just unbelievable to think about. We'll move on to Pete Dunn's five superlatives.
Yeah, my favorite pick, not only for the player, but also the thought process behind it, is going to be Chase Basantis. I love that they're willing to implement and value that offensive line. Draft Diamond is very clearly Jeremiah Love. I don't think anybody else was really in contention for this. I think you think he's generational. I think he's borderline generational. He's the best running back prospect that I think we've seen since Saquon, maybe well, since Bijan and then Saquon right up there with him. I think he's going to be really good for a long time in the NFL. I've said it before. I think he's going to walk into the league and be the third best running back. And Bob, he's behind Gibbs, he's behind Bijan, but other than that, I wouldn't take anybody else over him. And so, best value, I think is going to be Proctor. I love where they got him. I was really high on him, and getting him in the range that they did, I think was really good. Sleeper, like I said, Carson Beck. Do not be surprised if he starts earlier than people think, and takes over for the rest of the year.
Unbelievable. I wrote down on my list Carson Beck is going to be the 2026 version of Tyler Shuck, which is why he's going to come into my year one impact. I don't know when he's going to start. I don't know when he's going to play. I don't think it's going to be week one. Usually that's when you trot Jacoby Brissett out. That's kind of what they did for Drake May. But I see a similar Drake May progression maybe with Carson Beck, where he comes in kind of earlier in the season, maybe not at the beginning. We see what he does from there. Favorite pick in Draft Diamond, same thing, Pete, on Jeremiah Love. I love the Jeremiah Love pick. That's an aggressive move. When you have a draft that doesn't have that many stars in it and you're kind of in a weird roster position, you figure it out, man. They're going to have a lot of money soon, hopefully in free agency, maybe some cap relief in a few years. But go get Jeremiah Love, surefire, generational prospect, best value. I mean, Caleb Proctor, man, the value isn't necessarily there in terms of where they picked him. I just think the biggest value for him is his ability to play defensive tackle and defensive end. That's going to be the big thing for him. Chase Basantis is going to slide in there. So, Pete, I'll ask you for the Cardinals storylines, will they win more than 5 games in 2026?
It's hard because I really do like the skill positions. I have so much faith in Marvin Harrison Jr. I absolutely still think he has the capability to be not only a wide receiver one, a really good wide receiver one. I think that the Kyler Murray experiment was over, and I think they made the right decision getting rid of him sooner rather than later. You've got a really good receiver prospect. You've got a really good running back prospect. You've got arguably the best tight end in football and a developing offensive line. There's real upside for this team. However, I think they're still 1 year away from making true strides. I think this team is going to be under 5 wins.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, when you're in a division with two 12-win teams from
Yeah.
last year, going to be super interesting. But we'll move in to the Super Bowl champion, Seattle Seahawks, my team, of course. We both gave them Bs in this draft. Ultimately, the big thing that stands out to me on this screen is that they started the draft with 4 picks and they ended with 8. That's just an unbelievable job by John Schneider and friends over there in Seattle. But I'll give Pete on the floor to kind of tell me what he thinks, and then I'll follow up.
Yeah, I just think, we had the conversation earlier with the Panthers on the last episode, and I think this is just a really good draft. You figure out how to make a high floor draft. The thought process really is like, okay, how do we make sure we come out of this draft with 4 or 5 players that are going to be on our roster for the next 5 years and make our roster better? And they did that. I think Bud Clark is going to be someone that can contribute. I was a little lower on him than you were. Julian Neal, I loved the thought process behind him. Get that physical corner in there. And Jadarian Price, you and me were both much higher on him than consensus. I think this is a player that has real bell cow RB1 upside with low tread on the tires, really explosive. I love so much of what he does. I love the pick, one of my favorite picks in the draft. I liked the thought process. I like the philosophy. And I liked what you said too about trading back continually, ending up with more picks. That's a really good process.
With all the compensatory picks from losing all those guys in free agency, from losing Reek Woolen, Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker. They're at 12 picks for next year as of today, which is an unbelievable number. And speaking kind of on that topic of the departures and the additions, I just want to outline it because I feel like people are kind of misunderstanding what the Seahawks really lost and really gained, man. So, of course, Kenneth Walker walked. All right. $43 million is the contract that they got. What did the Seahawks do? You go sign Jadarian Price for $16 million. Really good in my book. I mean, that's a younger running back, low
Yeah.
tread in the tires. Kenneth
Yeah.
Walker is injury prone when he is the number one running back. He's kind of have to split carries in a way. So that's all good because he would have been the number one running back for the entire season with Charbonnet being out. So that wouldn't have worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Boye Mafe, he walked for $60 million, 3-year deal going to our favorite franchise, the Bengals. What do the Seahawks do? They go get Dante Fowler for $2.5 million. And the big difference there, Boye Mafe had 31 tackles and 2 sacks last year, and Dante Fowler had 15 tackles and 3 sacks. So I mean, that's just a really good kind of slide under the radar move for them. You look at Kobe Bryant, safety, going to the Bears, 40 million. Bud Clark's going to be that immediate replacement there in the second round for 7.8. That's value to me. And then of course, Reek Woolen, 1 year, $15 million contract with that Eagles team, and you literally slide it right in with Julian Neal for that $6.6 million mark. You signed the right guys. You signed Job. You retained Shaheed. You retained Bobo, Drake Thomas, and then you extended JSN and Cross. I think it's a phenomenal job this offseason for the Seahawks team to retain the guys who mattered. We'll move in to the depth chart, Pete Dunn. Is there anything that stands really jumps off the screen to you, if you will?
Yeah, I think that this team did a really great job of making sure that they knew they had a really good roster already and supplemented behind that. And how can we make sure that we maximize the guys that we have on roster, make them the best that they can be, and continue to improve for the future? Jadarian Price is a great combination of he's going to be really good this season and really important this season, but he's also going to be really important 4 years from now when he's still your running back one. Bud Clark can play this year at that safety position. 4 years from now, he's also going to be really good. Julian Neal can give you reps at corner. Also, high upside player down the road. I loved the way that they went after that, and that's what stands out to me on this roster.
I'd even argue Bo Stevens. I didn't have him ranked, but I do think he fits really well. I'm looking at the right guard position. All my Seahawks fans, they know it, man. Anthony Bradford is terrible, and you finally might have gotten a replacement for him. We're not sure. Of course, that center position We weren't sure if they would do anything. They didn't do anything. They're trusting Sundell. He had a good season. Olu right behind him. I trust the Seahawks team with everything in me. It's going to dictate my mood for the next 10 months. Once really training camp starts, we'll move into Pete Dunn's five superlatives.
Yeah, it's a lot of Jadarian Price here. I absolutely love the pick. I've talked about it before. Favorite pick, draft diamond, and my year one impact. I think, like I said, he's going to be really good this year one. Draft diamond down the road, though, he'll be good in 5 years as well. So I really think he's going to be the star of this class. Best value is going to be Julian Neal. Again, I love it. He's your Tariq Woolen replacement. You got Woolen in a later round as a physical corner who had high upside. That's what Julian Neal is. Usually you can't strike twice, but they're going to try and do it there. I like what you said about Bo Stevens. He's going to be my top sleeper. I think there's upside for him to come in and play immediately, if not this year, next year.
There's a chance for all of those guys to be stars. I feel the same way about Jadarian Price going in the three same slots that you had him. Same thing with Julian Neal at that best value slot. And of course, Bud Clark, I just think that he can also play a little bit of the corner role. He was kind of one of those hybrid guys. I don't think he'll be needed at that nickel slot, but you never know. He's a rangy guy. Reminds me of Kobe Bryant, the guy he will be replacing. Ultimately, P. Dunn, how can they repeat after losing everything that they lost in free agency?
Well, you everything that you lost, you did a great job of summarizing. You replaced. And so your thought process is how can we do the same thing we did last year with the same philosophy and continue to make it better? And I think Jadarian Price can be a more stable and back in that backfield. I think he has the upside. And I like what they did on the defensive side of the ball too.
It all comes down to Sam Darnold, and you can't forget how bad Sam Darnold was in terms of turnovers. He's going to have a better season in terms of turnovers. And
Yep.
you just wait, man, until Jalen Milroe gets thrown into the fold. We are going to
Hey,
have a dynasty on our hands and a
come
Super Bowl
on.
window that will literally be open for at least 7 to 8 years compared to a team that Super Bowl window has been snapped shut for years now. And they're living in delusion. They're absolutely delusional. They think that they still have a chance. It's the San Francisco 49ers with the worst draft that I've ever seen, that I've ever graded in my life. And I'm not saying that as a biased Seahawks fan because P. Dunn feels the same way, giving it a C minus. How bad was this, P. Dunn?
It was almost a D for me. Last year, a lot of the conversations we had was about the fact that they took outliers and bet on outliers a lot through last year's draft class. And they did it again. Romello Height, smaller edge rusher, right? Deshaun Stribling, the outliers that no one thinks he's good at football except for you. So that's the outlier with Deshaun Stribling. And when I say you, I mean the 49ers, not Niko. Kalen Black, not that athletic, was not very high on him. Grayson Halton, small. I liked him a lot, but again, outlier, small three tech, just a pass rush upside, right? Ephesians Prysock, I actually like him. I think he's going to be good. You like him too. But that's the reason it didn't get a D for me is because I think I did like Grayson Halton. I like the pass rush upside. And Ephesians Prysock, I think, is a guy that can contribute in that kind of open corner room. Other than that, though, man, this is a bad draft. Like you said it, this is one of the worst drafts we have seen in the last 2 years. It's one of the worst drafts I've seen in a long time. From not only the philosophy on the positions they drafted, specifically the players they took in those spots is it's just bad practice. It's really bad.
John Lynch should be absolutely ashamed, especially after kind of that experiment with some of the guys that are already in their wide receiver room now. Those guys have failed. You need a wide receiver terribly.
Yeah.
Debo has not worked out. He's obviously on a different team. Juwan Jennings, he's gone. Brandon Ayuk, how did that turn out? Of course, Ricky Pearsall, one of those weird reaches that they took, not working out. They decided to sign Mike Evans for this massive contract that we don't agree with, but hopefully he can be that presence. And I'm telling you, man, DeJohn Stribling at round two, pick 33, we've talked about this. Premium pick, first pick of the second round. After night one happens, you're like, all right, who's going to go? And it ends up being DeJohn Stribling. And I'll list all the guys that the 49ers, under their rationale in terms of the positions that they took later, could have taken. Because you're looking at an edge rusher at that round three slot. Well, TJ Parker's on the board. He went 35th. Caden McDonald, you needed a defensive tackle. You took Grayson Halton. He was 36th overall taken. Colton Hood, you needed a corner, 37th. Denzel Boston, probably the surefire pick for any team. He was there at 39. Kristen Miller, if you really wanted to double up on that defensive tackle, 42. And literally anybody else in round two would have been a better pick than DeJohn Stribling. I just hate it. It's terrible. I'm not trying to be biased, but this is very, very disappointing. If I was a 49ers fan, I would be shocked. I would be shocked how bad this was. We'll look at their depth chart. They had some interesting moves. They kind of got Dre Greenlaw back in the system after him going that 1 year to Denver. Otherwise, Nate Hobbs may be a notable one. Christian Kirk, Mike Evans are the main ones. Pete Dunn. Let's talk to me about their odd wide receiver room. How do you think that this shakes out?
Yeah, I think I was not high on the Mike Evans signing. I think that he was too much money for an aging receiver. Brandon Ayuk is not going to be playing football for this team. There was a report today that said that he told them that he would never be playing football for them again, but he also doesn't want to be traded. They don't want to trade him. I don't know if he'll ever step field on a football field again. I would be surprised if that happened because no one wants Brandon Ayuk at this point. Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, really tough start to his career. Nothing you can do about that. Hopefully, he gets back on his feet and can settle in because he really hasn't had a chance to. Obviously, with the injury that he had in the shooting, but also injuries on the field that he struggled with. Christian Kirk, we've known what he is for a while now. He was bad with the Jags, overpaid there, was not good with the Texans last year. But those are your starting receivers. Mike Evans old, Ricky Pearsall's been injured, Christian Kirk's bad, and Deshaun Stribling was an awful pick. So I don't know. And Brandon Ayuk is not going to play football ever again. So it's just not a good receiver room right now.
It's just a lot, a lot, a lot. The one upside I can say is that their offensive line is still pretty solid. I will say, Pete, you see some guys waiting in the fold, the guys over there as the backups. Do you predict any of them to kind of crack the lineup, if you will, or are you thinking that this 49ers offensive line is going to stick?
I don't know. The problem is because they took a bunch of players that I wasn't familiar with, which usually is not a good thing because we spend a lot of time preparing our big boards and looking around for players. So unless they really found two really well kept secrets in Carver Willis and Enrique Cruz, I do not see either of those people playing right now. They found a way to invest in every other position except for the one thing we've tried to get them to do is figure out who your Trent Williams replacement is. I don't know. I think that I didn't like the thought process, and I do not think those guys will be playing this year.
The one props that I can give them, they traded back twice in the first round to end up
Yeah,
getting to pick
yeah,
number 33. So they are stocking up for next year's picks,
yeah.
which is super interesting. We'll move on here to Pete Dunn's five superlatives.
Yep. Favorite pick, it's going to be Grayson Halton just because I think he was the best player on my board. It's a lot of Grayson Halton. I think he's the only guy that's going to stay on this team for a long time. Also, my best value and also my year one impact, just because the rest of the team and the rest of the draft class is awful. Ephesian Prysock, I will say, just because that corner room is so open, I absolutely think that he can make a swing into that corner room and play this season. So I would put him as my sleeper, but to say this is a one-man draft class, it's a one-man draft class, and your one-man draft class is on a guy that I think is a one-dimensional pass rusher. And that's just not, it's a terrible draft, man. Terrible draft.
Not gonna lie, man, when I gave it a D plus, it is because it is a zero man draft class. Because when you draft an undersized defensive tackle as your best pick, it is not gonna cut it. He is ultimately going to be my draft diamond because he is the only relevant player who's going to be in this roster in a few years. Otherwise, though, big fan of Ephesians Prysock. Favorite pick and the best value for me. I mean, he was what, 91st overall on my board. He goes 138th. Like, great job by them taking him, fitting what they ultimately need. Sleeper, it has to be a Romello Height. He has to step it up. There's really nobody else. I feel like edge number two, Michael Williams coming off the injury. Maybe that's an opening for him. I don't know. I had to put Dijon Stribling at the year one impact because I'm telling you, man, if you're going to pick him in round two, you better
Yeah.
have a plan for him. So he must be this great sleeper that we don't know about. Usually it doesn't work out like that. This team's window is definitely closed. Am I correct?
Um, yes, I would say so. The only reason I hesitate is because of Brock Purdy, and I think that he is a good quarterback. He's only as good as the weapons around him, though. And the best years we've seen from him is with a healthy Kittle. So now Kittle is aging, McCaffrey aging, Trent Williams aging. There is no Debo Samuel. There is no Brandon Ayuk. Um, I think they have the best head coach in football, and that's the reason I hesitate. I do think he's the best head coach in football. Sometimes, last year was a perfect example. I have no idea how this team won as many games as they did. The roster was terrible. In and out of Brock Purdy, making Mac Jones look like he was Sam Darnold. I have no idea. Like, it's just, I think they have the best head coach in football, is why I hesitate. The window's closed, though. You cannot win a Super Bowl with this roster.
Unfortunate. They should start rebuilding soon because drafts like this are just not going to cut it. We'll move on to the NFC West. Real superlatives as we look, the offseason winner and losers. And Pete, I'll give you the floor. This will be interesting here. What do you think, and who do you think the offseason winner from the West is?
That's a great question. Okay, I could go a couple. Well, I can tell you it's not. So it's not going to be the 49ers, but for a long-term outlook, I think that the Rams had the best because I think they did the best thing to set themselves up for success for the next 10 to 15 years of the franchise. However, the Seahawks did the best thing to win now. And the Cardinals took a really good step at getting that roster in a better place. So I think they all had three different philosophies. I'm going to go with the Rams because I gave them the highest grade. But I think all three teams in that section did what they wanted to do.
Think this segment is all about did you win this offseason? And I think it's impossible for the Rams to win this offseason when they didn't plan for now. Like they didn't plan for now at all. They might have planned for the future. That's great. But when you like have a opportunity to be a phenomenal football team and blow everybody out the water in the NFC and you don't, that's not going to be the winner for me. It's going to be the Seahawks. Offseason loser, I will say it's the 49ers. No question about it. I'll let Pete Dunn have the floor just to tell me if he agrees.
Yeah, I do agree. It's just the 49ers is absolutely terrible draft class. D minus, I mean D plus for you, C minus for me. I probably should have given it a D. Even the one player that I took, I don't think is going to work out, and that's not a great draft.
We'll look at the win totals. High win totals for three teams, super low one for that fourth team. We kind of talked about that Cardinals. We'll start with the Cardinals. I'll let you reiterate, Pete, on is it over or under for this 4.5 win Cardinals team?
It's going to be the under. Again, I actually really like the idea that they could put some stuff together in this next offseason and get themselves pointed in the right direction. It's not going to be this season for me. I think there's too many question marks, whether it's Brissett, whether it's Minshew, whether it's Beck. Neither of those guys are going to get you to 5 wins, in my opinion.
Yep. We'll look at this 49ers team. High number at 10.5. I'll be the first one to tell you they're going under. I'm sorry, man. It's just not a good enough draft, not a good enough free agency to supplement ultimately what that team has as a roster and what they plan on doing. Pete, on how do you feel?
Yeah, I unfortunately have to agree. The roster is just not good enough for this line. The only reason they're there is because of Shanahan. But again, they have to do something to surround him. It's an aging team. Every piece they have is aging, especially on offense, and I don't think they're going to get it done this year.
I disagreed with the two lines that we have left immediately when they came out because the Super Bowl champions should be higher than the Rams, in my opinion, especially after they beat them twice in huge games. But ultimately, you have the Rams at 11.5, Seahawks at 10.5. Are you going over or under for the Rams?
I'm taking the over for the Rams. I think they're going to win 12 games. I'm also slamming the over for the Seahawks. Very easy for both of these. I think they're the two best teams in football.
I 100% agree. Over on that Rams team and over on that Seahawks team. You got to remember that Seahawks team won 14 games last year. There's no way that they're losing four less. It's just not how it's going to work. We
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a volatile episode of Division Draftables, the episode number 4, the NFC West edition. I had a lot of fun with Pete on today. It's great to always talk about these teams, gearing you up for training camp, preseason, regular season, and then playoffs, and then the Super Bowl that's coming up. We thank you guys so much for tuning in.